physician in New York City, was in the ICU in a New York City hospital because he had examined a patient without proper personal protective equipment. Anyway, the son, who is 4 months away from practicing medicine with his father, which had been his lifetime dream, but this dream may not be fulfilled because of what COVID-19 is doing to his father. Anyway, this son, physician, was appealing to friends, strangers, anyone who could write, email, tweet, Facebook, the FDA, to allow those COVID-19 ICU patients, to allow them to be included in the medical trials in the hope of saving their lives. Today, we have Martha and Mary, who saw Jesus as the only hope of saving their brother's life. They weren't prepared. Their brother Lazarus fell ill, and before they knew it, he was dead. One moment, Lazarus was full of life, and the next moment, they were wrapping his lifeless body in a shroud and placing him in a tomb. They did the only thing they could think of doing. They sent a messenger to Jesus, who was up in Galilee, to tell him of their brother's condition. Jesus' best friend's condition, and urge him to come. But Jesus didn't come. He waited. They wondered what could be keeping him. Their brother's condition deteriorated, and still, Jesus didn't come. Now, John, the gospel writer, gets a little defensive in the way that he tells this story. Though Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, he tells us, after hearing that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place he was. 2 days longer, talking to the disciples about God's glory. And Lazarus is dying. Jesus was nonchalant, downright nonchalant about the whole thing. And finally, after 2 days, he tells his disciples, let us go to Judah again. At the end of chapter 10, it tells how people tried to stone Jesus in Jerusalem for claiming to be the Son of God. And now Jesus and his disciples had made their way across the Jordan River to the place that John had performed his baptisms. So the disciples try to talk Jesus out of going back to Judah. But now he is resolute. He has to meet these two sisters whom he loved and show them the glory of God. Now Lazarus was already 4 days in the tomb when Jesus arrived. Martha goes out to meet him, but Mary doesn't. It's hard to read their mood. Maybe not quite anger, but perhaps a feeling of being let down by the one man they thought they could trust completely. I want you to imagine for a moment the meeting between Jesus and these two sisters. I want you to picture Jesus and Martha coming into contact. Martha expressing her deep, deep disappointment. If you had been here, my brother would not have died. It had to be said. He died. And Martha was in mourning, as was Mary. It was an emotional encounter with the man they had called their friend. Your brother will rise again, Jesus tells her. That is the hope we cling to, isn't it? That is a little bit of comfort we take as we watch the death toll rise day after day in the midst of the virus. The dead will live again, and we will see them again. But Jesus proclaims himself to be the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live. And she confesses to him that he is the Son of God and the Messiah. Martha sends for Mary to join them. And she meets Jesus with those same words of disappointment. But what comes next is the gospel that you and I need to hear today. In the midst of our fears and our anxieties, here is Jesus with these two dear women, and they are weeping and they are sobbing, and others were too. And John tells us that Jesus was deeply disturbed in spirit and deeply moved. He said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to Jesus, "Lord, come and see." And Jesus began to weep. Thank God that Jesus wept. For to me, this is the heart of the story as we live through this COVID-19 crisis. That grief that takes hold of God and breaks him down. That Jesus, the most accurate revelation of the divine that we have ever had, stands at the grave of his friend and cries. I've heard from several people that tears are one of the side effects of the quarantine. People will start off by saying something like, "I know this sounds stupid, but the slightest thing makes me cry." I want you to know this. The tears of Christ make our tears holy. Yes, holy. When Jesus cries, he shows to Mary and Martha not only that their beloved brother is worth crying for, but also that they are worth crying with. And maybe that's one way of getting ourselves through this COVID-19 crisis. To weep for those who have died. To weep with those who have lost their loved ones. To weep with those who've lost jobs. To weep with those whose bills are piling up. To weep with those in despair. The tears of Jesus teach us that sometimes tears are our best and most honorable language. Yes, the stone will be rolled away. Yes, Lazarus will rise. But today, don't rush past the tears. Because Jesus encounters us in our sorrows, in our sufferings, in our despair.